Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi everyone, welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we are going to talk about Violet Affleck's message to the world about masking, a circus performer who plummeted to their death, and the dangers of amusement rides. All that and more on today's episode. Let's get started with Violet Affleck.
So, for those of you who aren't familiar, she is the 19-year-old daughter of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Gardner. So she went to the UN last week to discuss clean air and urged the government to bring back mask mandates. How do you feel about this?
I actually feel bad for this kid because I think that she's completely out of her mind, and I just can't imagine that her parents are letting her do this.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of...
There's really, are there people right now that are just like, you should be wearing a mask at all times? I know there are, but...
Everywhere I go, I see people, not everyone, but I see a handful of people wearing them when you go out.
It's sad what has been done during this pandemic to people to make them think that they need to wear a mask all the time. I just feel really bad for people like that.
See, it's like I could get behind her with the clean air initiative, right? And she's using the example of like how positive it was when we took smoking out of indoor areas like restaurants, airplanes, etc. And I understand that and I get behind that. But I think the mass criticism she's getting is that her father is like a serial chain smoker, always smoking in every single environment, and how are you trying to urge the government to make changes when you can't even convince your dad to make a change? And then I also saw Meghan McCain was criticizing her, saying, you know, she's also the daughter of famous people, and her parents would have never let her go up on a stage at such a young age with having no background at all and talk about such serious topics. So I think, you know, she could potentially have a good message with the Clean Air Initiative, but I think a lot of people are just looking at it as she's this Nepo baby with no background whatsoever in the science behind all of this, and she has no reason to be up there talking to these people.
It just, the whole thing of it just kind of blows my mind because you're like, they're only there X amount of minutes, and you're giving this person with this message this time to talk. There's nothing else in the world that was more pressing than this right now.
Well, I think the big question, too, is how did she even get there?
Because her parents are Ben Affleck and Jennifer Gardner. That's why.
I know, but that's, like, the criticism is that a normal person she was marked as a youth advocate there, right? A normal youth advocate that's a regular everyday person would not be able to go up there and speak like that. So it's just like, I think a lot of people are seeing it as something embarrassing, not as she was doing this great thing.
It does, like you're saying, the whole clean air thing and all, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's just like, okay, lady, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Like, she's trying to tell the government that everybody should wear a mask at all times. Like, she's out of her mind. That's out of your mind talk.
But also, if you have like a breathing issue because of poor air, don't live in Los Angeles, which has notoriously horrible air pollution. I just see it as ridiculous.
I just see it as nothing. If any person, like, you see people all the time in their car by themselves with a mask with the windows up, like, if you want to do that, fine, go ahead. But like, for the rest of us sane people here, no. And there is definitely a time and a place for it. That time and place being people who are immunosuppressed and need to wear something like an N95. Like, one of the guys that goes to my kid's school has cancer, right? And I saw him at one of the back to school events the other night wearing one. Totally appropriate because you're immunosuppressed and you should be wearing one. Everyone else, like, absolutely not. And it really, if COVID never happened, people would think that Violet Affleck was completely out of her mind, right? Like, every single person would be like, this is outrageous that this girl's even saying that. But now that COVID happened, which, by the way, is just as transmissible as, like, so many other things that occurred before COVID, like, it's just not, it's nothing to me. And the fact that so many people are just actually sitting there and even listening to it is really disturbing to me, that they're letting her do that, and she's embarrassing herself.
Well, yeah, and I think of, when people have a lot of issues with Nepo babies, I think situations like this, I don't think in every case just because somebody has famous parents doesn't mean they haven't worked hard and haven't earned where they are in their spot and whatever. But when you see situations like this, you're like, why is this kid up there? What is she talking about? And from the news outlets I've seen and the social media response, I don't think very many people thought she was being this hero that she thought she was being.
It scares me. Like I'm saying, I feel terrible for her. I really do. And it's her parents' responsibility to be like, sweetheart, no, no.
Well, the way it comes across to me is that Jennifer Gardner's totally behind her with this. And I don't know how present of a parent Ben Affleck is or anything, but like, he's clearly not taking her advice. He's always photographed smoking cigarettes everywhere he goes.
The funny thing is that she keeps saying that I guess she's suffering from symptoms of long COVID, which honestly I've never looked into enough to know if it's people say they're having all these symptoms or whatever. She's saying, and some of the symptoms that she's having include shortness of breath and trouble concentrating and these things, and I'm just like, could it be because you're wearing a mask all day? Is that possible?
Well, I was gonna say that too.
Just putting it out there, like, listen, I've had to wear one for work several times, like for actual reasons, to prevent getting TB from either a specimen or an autopsy, and it's just more difficult to breathe when you're wearing them all day long at work. Like, I don't care what anybody says, it is.
I mean, yeah, when I think back to the height of COVID, the summer of 2020, I'm working at the restaurant. It's hot outside. We had to wear them. It was terrible. Everybody felt like they were going to pass out all the time.
Yeah, so I mean, I just think a lot of people do it because they're just I think of a lot of the times, it's sometimes like I like to wear my glasses, like I feel like if I don't have them on, I feel like naked or something. It's just weird. Maybe that's how they feel. They just feel like safer with it on their face. And like, listen, like I don't give a shit if people wear them. They could do whatever they want, but to come on there and try to act like were they actually listening to what she was saying? She wants all children to be wearing those things all the time.
Well, I think
nobody should have even let that get said out loud on a stage. It's just outrageous.
Well, I think that's why, in part, why she's getting, criticized, because I think if you had a legitimate scientist go up there and be like, we've conducted all these studies and provided all this scientific backing and presented a credible argument, you would be taken a little more seriously. I mean, of course, you should still take into consideration it under advisement.
There's no scientist that's ever going to get up and say that because it's so outrageous.
Like, you're the teenage child of 2 movie stars. So, and you go to Yale, but for what? I don't know. I just think it was ridiculous. Okay, on Saturday, a 27-year-old circus acrobat was doing a solo trapeze act in front of 100 people when suddenly she fell 16 feet and died.
Did you see the video?
I didn't.
I saw it. It's I was thinking when I read it, 16 feet isn't really that high. I mean, it's high. Like I don't want to fall from 16 feet for sure, but usually that results in maybe some kind of traumatic injuries, broken bones, death is. I don't really know, but I mean she was swinging trapeze, so it's not a very clear video, so I couldn't see exactly how she fell onto the ground. But if she fell, I guess, on her abdomen or her head even, then that could have definitely caused more severe problems, which actually happened to her because she's dead. But
well, I think there is speculation that maybe she had like a health issue or something, because they're trying to say that she was so experienced that in general she wouldn't have necessarily made a mistake like that, even though she wasn't wearing a safety rope. But the fall wasn't that high. So I think that's where everybody's kind of coming in saying this seems unusual, that she would have just fallen. I mean, but you could fall from a short distance like that and just hit your neck the wrong way or something, right?
Totally. Yeah, it just... We have another story actually in this episode talking about someone that fell from a much greater distance, which you could understand, would cause life-threatening injuries. But in this case, I've been to a couple of these acrobat shows, and they're so good. They're just so amazing, and I just watch the people and think, if you really watch these people that walk on the tightrope and all this stuff, and they don't have any kind of harness, it's really, really amazing that there's not more things like that happen.
Oh, totally. This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, this week's high profile Death Dissection was on the DC Sniper. I highly recommend you read that one. And we also have a crazy case of an IUD gone wrong. I've never seen this particular side effect of an IUD or complication, I guess you would say. And we have a very unusual way a woman killed herself. All that and more in The Gross Room for only $5.99 a month.
Head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up.
All right. So now we have a string of stories about things that happen on recreational rides.
All right, so back in 2021, this 6-year-old girl went on the haunted mine drop at Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park in Colorado with some family members. So when they were getting on the ride, there's this safety feature built into the ride that'll let the operators know if something is off with the seatbelts or the ride. So that system was going off, and they kept repeatedly checking it, but didn't see an issue. So then they ended up overriding it and sending the ride along its way, but they didn't realize that this girl was sitting on top of part of the seatbelt and not fully strapped in. So then when the ride went, it operates kind of similar to Tower of Terror, you know, those free fall drop rides.
Okay.
So when the ride started, you know, everybody's screaming, they're not really paying attention. The ride comes to an end, and then her family members realize she's not in her seat, and then they see her at the bottom of the ride because she fell out of the seat.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. Like the uncle was just like, yeah, I turned around to see if she was enjoying the ride, to see the little look on her face, and she was gone. Could you freaking imagine that?
No, so they think she fell about 110 feet to the bottom of the ride, which
God.
is so far. But yeah, the family at that time had filed a wrongful death suit, and they've now been awarded $205 million.
Well, another worst part of it is that when they discovered that the girl was missing, they started screaming to stop the ride, and they still brought them back up again to do the drop again. Could you just, I just can't even imagine. And I'm glad that they're winning a lawsuit, because this is 100% lawsuit worthy. This is the thing. Every single time my kids go on rides, like, people might think that I'm a total crazy person, because I am, but I check when they get on, I just check and say, pull your seatbelt up, pull your harness up. Like, I want to physically see that this is checked, because you have, especially down the shore, it's all kids that are running these rides. They're teenage kids that are running it, and they're just not paying attention like that you would hope they were. So even though this ride took into account for that and had safety mechanisms in place, they still got overlooked and missed, and then this kid ended up dying from it, which is just, it's so terrible. What a terrible thing for the whole entire family to go through.
Well, personally, I don't think that you should be able to override the system settings. You should just shut the ride down if it's not letting you operate it, or it says there's an error.
Yeah.
You should not be able to override that and keep it going.
This is what we were talking about this weekend when we had Caroline and Lyle over and their kids, when we were talking about, I said I personally feel safer going on rides at Disney World, because I feel like they have so much to lose if someone gets hurt. And I feel like it's true, because maybe it's a false sense of security, but I think that they just overdo everything to make sure that nothing like that ever happens, because of, imagine now with the social media, the visual of something like that happening and that being caught on film, it would ruin somewhere like Disney or something, so.
Well, they don't want the PR crisis.
They don't want the PR crisis, so they go out of their way with just extra safety features and rules and things like that. And this particular case is just, especially that the kid was with her uncle and not the parent. You know what I mean? Like, God, it's just, think about like going on after that and all the what ifs, and like, I shouldn't have taken her on that ride, and this is my fault, and she'd be alive still if I didn't bring her. Just like, I can't imagine what the family went through with that.
Well, I don't know if you looked up pictures of the park, but it is this gorgeous amusement park in the middle of Colorado in the mountains. It's so cool looking, but after hearing an incident like this and it seeming like total negligence on behalf of the park, I don't know if I could ever trust going on anything there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, so this TikTok is going viral showing a woman on a cruise water slide with part of the slide hanging over the edge of the boat, and she appears to be stuck. I can't imagine how terrifying this must be.
It looks so scary. And she's like scooting her body trying to get through. And the comments are hilarious on this, actually. Some person said that it was, wait, did you see that one? I'm trying to see it. Oh, so it's a water slide that goes over the ocean, and someone called it a death tube over shark soup.
Oh my God.
It really is. So I guess this particular water slide, although it wasn't mentioned in the TikTok, many people figured out which cruise ship it was from, and they describe it as hanging 11 feet off of the side of the ship and 159 feet above the ocean. And it's a clear tube, clear-ish tube that you could kind of see through. So the company offered a statement that said that the slide shows in the footage features and escape patch for guests who exit safely when they cannot complete an experience due to factors like not wearing the recommended swim attire or weight of the guest, etc.
Well, why would you let those people on? If you know there's potential issues that you have to have a safety escape hatch, then why let those people go on the slide?
So that's the escape hatch that she was in?
No, she probably had to crawl a little further because I assume the escape hatch had to be on the ship somewhere. In the ship, you can't get out over the ocean.
That's what I was confused about. But on top of that, I mean, obviously I didn't get to analyze this situation 100%, but just based on the video, she doesn't look too skinny or too fat. She looks like she's wearing a normal bathing suit. What the problem looks like to me is that there's no water in the freaking tube.
There's no water coming through the tube, and
like,
you know
usually it's gushing.
Well, you know what it reminded me too of a couple weeks ago when we had the story that there was that giant hole in the water slide.
Oh my God.
And thinking about, that potentially happening and falling into the ocean. I mean, at that point, you're just a goner.
I just don't like water slides.
I don't like cruise ships.
I don't like going outside. I don't like fun.
Well, your mother is going on another cruise in the spring, so we can make fun of them.
We're not.
Louie sent me some video the other day of all this water, I guess, coming from the pool deck. Because, all these cruise ships are out right now, but those 2 hurricanes are in the middle of the ocean right now. So the water is really rough, and they're just showing, like, all these dishes flying off the wall, this pool water spilling, and people, just not being able to gain their balance because the boat is rocking so bad. And I just don't understand the appeal of it.
It was nice. The boat ride was nice.
Yeah, because we had perfect water. Imagine if it was rocky.
I don't know. I don't want to think about it.
All right. So your favorite ride, the Zipper, had a major malfunction at a carnival in Las Vegas over the weekend where one of the carriages just fell off the ride in the middle of it and slammed into another one.
I hate that ride. That's like one of my
Tell
rides.
Your story.
When I was 13 years old. So this is a I guess you would say it's a Ferris wheel that goes a little bit. Is that what it is?
It's similar,
yes.
but it's half the
it's
size.
A Ferris. It's like a Ferris. Yeah, it's like a smaller Ferris wheel, but it goes around in that motion, but it goes fast.
And the carriages flip too.
Yeah, each individual car is like a cage, and it flips upside down as it's going around the circle. So, of course, I went on one at a carnival ride when I was 13 years old, and through my mouth filled up with vomit, and I had to let it out, and it went all over my friend next to me, who's not my friend anymore. So you can imagine how that went down. But I remember, you know what? It was in the parking lot at the Echelon Mall when the Echelon Mall was a thing. And I remember that I went up to a couple of the stands that were like selling popcorn and stuff, and no one had napkins, and I had to go in Boscov's or whatever the store was at the time and get something because I had puke all over me. It was terrible. And I didn't have a phone or anything because that was, before that. So I had to call mom and pop up on a pay phone and tell them to come pick me up. It was just, so anyway, every single time I saw that ride, I was like, that's like extra spinny. I can't go on that thing.
Well, I kind of couldn't believe it because it looks really bad in the video, and it said no injuries were reported.
Yeah, and it just said that there was a malfunction, and I'm like, no, the car fell off of the ride. I don't know what the malfunction is. It looks like they were slamming into each other. I mean, I'm sure people got banged up and bruises, but luckily nobody got seriously hurt.
I don't know. I know everybody already makes fun of me for the way I am, but whenever I see those rides, do you ever see them driving on the highway when they're going to set up? I'm just like, these rides are getting set up and broken down so often. How are they possibly stable?
Well, I actually wanted to mention that because so Carnival rides, which I don't think many people know, they don't have federal inspections like other rides do. So we were talking about the ride in the first case, which was terrible, which those rides actually have federal inspections and there were safety features on that ride, but you could still see that human error took a part in that. And there's nothing wrong with that first ride that we talked about at all. It was functioning properly. It was an operator error that caused that child to die. There was nothing wrong with the ride itself.
Yeah.
Because of these federal regulations. Whereas with amusement rides, they not only don't have federal regulations, so they don't have to have safety inspections like that, but on top of that, they're being assembled and reassembled all the time. And they're in different environments, which we know, like, for example, the rides down the shore are more prone to getting erosion because of the salt quality in the air. But if you're going from, like, an environment that's humid with a high salt quality in the air, and then you go to the desert with the same rides, like the materials expanding and contracting and things like that all has to be taken into consideration. So there's just an increased risk in general of those types of rides having problems. And on top of that, there was this journal called the Medical Journal of Clinical Pediatrics. And they found that merry-go-rounds and carousels and rides that are considered to be like safe account for 20% of the accidents that are seen and the injuries that are seen with rides. And that's, so when you go to a carnival, you always look and you're like, okay, they're not like super major. If I fell off one, it would hurt, but I wouldn't die or something like that, you know? And that actually accounts for more injuries.
Interesting. All right, guys. Well, we're going to be at the Wildlife CSI at Lake Tobias Wildlife Park this Friday evening. And then the following weekend, we'll be sponsoring the golf carts at Keeping Hope Alive Golf Classic. And after that, on the 18th, we'll be at Darkside, New Jersey in Edison.
Awesome. See you guys.
Yeah, head over to Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, if you have stories for us, please submit them to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.